Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And we're going to make something a little bit different today. We're going to make a necklace, but I was able to get to source these beautiful hand-painted beads from Turkey. You'll be able to see better when we get down to the mat, not to give away too much. But I have also been seeing all of these really kind of crafty pieces of jewelry made out of buttons. And I have it, if any sewers are out there, I have a ton of buttons. I mean, a ton of buttons that I thought, well, maybe one of these days I'll do something actually crafty and use those to make something, but I've just not done it. And so I pulled them out and I looked at them and I thought, oh, those are neat. But I also saw some really interesting stamped buttons, two-hole buttons that go beautifully with these Turkish beads. I mean, just beautiful. And they've got really nice fall colors and we're coming up on autumn in the United States. So I thought, okay, well, let me go ahead and get some of those and maybe we'll put something like that together and make a piece of jewelry out of it. And I am happy I did. I keep saying I'm not going to buy anything else because I've got so much, but I just keep doing it. What can I say? So what we're going to do is take some of those little wooden stamped buttons and put them with some of the hand painted Turkish beads that I've got, and we're going to make a nice necklace. It's not going to take anything special except for those beads. And I want to reiterate, you don't have to have special beads for this. You can use donut beads, the kinds with the big hole in the center, or any kind of center flat bead with hole in the center. It would work with this particular type of wrap that I'm going to do on the button part as well. And the other is just a tube bead. And it doesn't even have to be a tube bead. It can be a round bead or a square bead or a rectangle bead. You can do this. The wrap is going to be very fairly basic. The only thing that's going to be different is going to be how we do the wrap on the buttons. And again, you can adapt that to other flat beads as well that have a hole drilled in the center. So let's go ahead and get to this. You're going to use your regular pliers, your round nose. I don't know why I have a catch in my throat. Your round nose pliers that are, the barrels are round all the way around. They taper smaller up to the tip and are larger at the hilt. We have our square pliers that are slightly rounded on the outside and flat on the inside. And we're going to have our wire cutters that are going to cut our wire. Then you'll need a ruler to measure everything out. 24 gauge wire is what we're going to use for this, and your beads. And that's it. So let's get going because I really want to get started on this. Okay, so these are some of the beads that I'm using. These are the stamped buttons. These are the Turkish beads, or this is one of the Turkish beads. And you can see what I meant about them. It's just going to be a fun piece. And these are all very lightweight. Ooh, I love it. So we need that. We need 24 gauge wire. The buttons are going to require 2 pieces of 3-inch wire for each drill point. So 2 pieces of 3-inch wire for one side and 2 pieces of 3-inch wire for the other side. And the Turkish beads are going to require 5 inches of wire. Now, it's going to depend on the size of the beads that you use. My buttons are about a 1/2 inch. A little more than 1/2 inch. Oh, almost, yeah, they're 3/4 inch. So it's going to depend on how your beads are drilled, but what you're going to need, well, I'll show you when we get ready to work with it, how you can measure everything out. As far as the tubes are concerned, it's going to depend on what the size of these beads are too. What you're going to need is whatever the amount is going through your bead, which in my case is not quite 3/4, about almost 3/4 of an inch, plus another 4 inches in addition to that. So I've got 5 inches for this. It's got a little bit more, about 1/4 of an inch more, so about 4 1/4 inches for just the wrapping purposes, and 3/4 of an inch to go through my bead. So that's what you need. Just make sure you have a good 4 inches. That'll probably give you more than you need depending on the size of your bead. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to wrap these little button beads. So I'm going to grab, I've got all my wire cut out, save a little time. I'm going to get a little bit of water here because I've got a frog in my throat and I don't know why. Okay, so I'm going to grab one of my button beads, 2 pieces of wire that are 3 inches long each. And I'm going to put the 2 wires side by side. Now, the one thing you want to make sure of when you're doing this is that your wires don't get tangled up and crossed over. That's what I'm doing. If you want to do a twisted wire, that's great. But for the piece that I'm doing, I'm keeping my wires separate and just close together and side by side. So I'm going to take both wires. I'm going to poke them through the back of my button. I'm putting them through the back because they're only stamped on one side and it's harder to see the holes on the stamped side. So I turn it over, poke it through the back side here, and give myself about 1 inch of wire from the drill point. Fold the wire up towards the top of the bead and just fold it front and back. So the front wire is folded up, the back wire is folded up. Then I'm going to cross the wires over. So I'm going to cross the front wire to the back and the back wire to the front, just like that. And then I'm going to give them a twist. I'm just going to give them a full twist around until the short wire is sticking out towards the front of my button. Then I'm going to take this wire, the short wire, and wrap it around the long tail. And I'm just wrapping it nice and close to my button. And when it's too short that I can't wrap it with my fingers, I'll just bring my pliers in and wrap it the rest of the way around. Okay, and I'm just pushing it from the back. Easier. And just push that little tip down so that it won't snag on anything. Then I just take my finger, run it along the edge and make sure I can't feel it, or if I can feel it, just a little bit. It's still there. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. So now I'm going to check, make sure my wires are side by side and not crossed over. Then I'm going to bend both of my wires to the side of my button. Just like that. There we go. And then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I want a nice big loop. My wire is going to be a very prominent part of my design, so I want a nice big loop so that it really shows. Plus, this is very small wire. It's 24 gauge, so it's very thin. So I can make a larger loop and it's not going to take over the design of the piece. It'll just look very pretty. And that's another reason why I use 2 strands instead of 1. You can use 22 gauge or 20 gauge, but I decided to go with the 2 smaller strands because I just like the look of it. So it's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got my wire almost to the very back of my pliers so I can get a nice big loop. check again, make sure that they're side by side, not crossed over, and then bring those two wire ends over the top of my pliers and down the side. I don't want to go any further than the bottom of my pliers. And it's not comfortable for me to go any further. So once I get to that point, I just hold on to my, I hold on to my bead and my wire, open my pliers up, reposition them, and clamp back down. And now I can nicely move that wire under the pliers to form my little loop. So there's my loop. Check it out. Very good. Got a little bit of space in between my wrap and the bottom of the loop. So I'm going to go back in with my pliers and just twist my wrist until my loop is right on top of my wrap. Right there. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap these two strands around over top of the other wrap. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure if I were to try to do it like this would start shifting. So I like to kind of hold on to this side of the loop with my finger just to secure it and then start my wrap around. Don't pull the wire, just bend it around. Nice and easy. This is very malleable wire, so you don't have to pull and tug and work too hard with it. Okay, so now that I've got it secure, nice wrap all the way around, I can take it off the pliers, and this loop is big enough to hold on to with my fingers, and I can wrap it even more if I want, or if you don't want any more wire on there, just cut it off. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap as much of it around as I can because I hate to waste my wire. And it's going to be pretty, so why not use it? Get over there with your counterpart. This wire said, no, I'm not going. Yes, you are. Okay, so once I get to where I can't wrap it anymore because it's too short, I can't wrap it with my fingers. I like to cut so that the little tip is right in the middle of my bead or in the middle of my loop. Because if I have it over here on the side, it's a better, I've found that it's a better chance that it will snag on something. If I have it here in the center, I can kind of hide it in between the other wraps a little bit better. So now I'm going to grab my pliers. Now, these pliers have a flat back and a little concave in the front. I always use the back so that I can get as close to my wraps as possible to cut this down. And because it's so short, I can't grab it. So I'm going to turn it down into this little spool and snip it off. Now, this little spool doesn't have anything to catch it on the bottom, but it holds it inside the circle so that I can just move it out of the way without wire flying all over the place. Then I'm going to grab my square pliers and push this little tip down among the other wraps. And check and make sure it's nicely secured in there. Get down there. This little one right here just does not want to go. Get down in there. There we go. So there's one side. So now I'm going to wrap the other side. Grab two more pieces of wire. Okay. Poke it through the back of my button. Give myself an inch from the drill point. Fold over that front. Fold it up. Fold up the back. Cross the wires over the top of the bead like so. Nice and close. And give them a twist until that short wire is poking out the front again. And now I'm going to wrap that short wire around the long wire. There we go. As much as I can with my fingers, and then I'll switch off to my pliers. And one of these is almost inevitably going to be longer than the other. It doesn't matter. Just wrap it around, wrap the short one around, follow it up with the long one. And then press it down. There we go. Bend over my wire, the long wire over to the side of my button. Grab my round pliers, slide my wire back to the back of my pliers. Now, watch out for this back here because it's square. If you go back too far, because there's an opening back there, you're going to end up with a square loop. Now, if you want a square loop and you want to get really artistic, hey, go for it. But I'm going for a round one. Okay, let's bring that wire over the top of my pliers and down the side. There we go. Hold on to my wire, open my pliers, reposition, clamp back down, and now I can easily bring it the rest of the way around without struggling. Okay, position my loop. I want it nicely on top. Looks like a little face with a scarf blowing in the wind. And now I'm going to just wrap those two wires around the other wraps. And I'm going to hold it with my fingers this time. I wanted to show you a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it with the pliers and the support. You can do it with your square pliers. If you do that, make sure you don't squash them. Just hold them. And I always go to the back to hold it with my square pliers because I get a better grip without having to grip so hard. So there's a way you can do it with your square pliers. You can do it with your fingers. All kinds of ways. There's usually not just one way to do something. And I keep these spread out because I find that it looks really pretty when you wrap it and you have a nice little spread between your wires. Okay, so now I think I've gone about as far as I can go with my fingers. Let's finish it off with my pliers. Again, I'm not pulling, I'm turning. I'm turning it around here because if you pull it, your wrap will get too tight. It just won't look the same. Okay, got that wrapped around. Let's follow it with this one. There we go. Let's fold it over and push it down. This one's doing like the other one did on the other side. I don't want to go around there. No. But you must be part of the design. A little bit more. There we go. Very nice. And then my little loop is kind of, you can see, well, it doesn't matter if you see both, but I want it to be a little bit more together. So I'm going to just work with that a little bit till I can get them both side by side. And there is my wrapped button. Neat, huh? I'm going to bring this down a little closer. Isn't that neat? Let's do another one. I'm only going to do half of this one because the other half of it is going to become your clasp. Anybody who knows me knows how I love to make clasps out of my beads. So 2 pieces of wire, 3 inches each, poke them through the back of my bead. There we go. Give myself an inch of wire side by side, not crossed over. I use that as my mantra. I sometimes tell myself, just to remind myself, not crossed over. Okay, and now we're going to bring the back to the front and the front to the back. Just crossing it over the top of the bead. And yeah, I should have gone the other way. I usually twist this way. Is that clockwise? Clockwise? Well, I twist front to back, but because I put the short one on towards me and the long one away from me. Now I'm going to have to twist the opposite direction, which is fine. It'll be the same thing. I just have to twist in a different direction. Right, I have to twist right to left instead of left to right. So now that I've got that wrapped around, I'm going to wrap the short tail around the long wire. I am really chatty today for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I hope it's not bugging you. I hope you're still getting something out of this tutorial other than me just talking your ears off. Okay, once I've wrapped that as much as I can, I'm going to continue. Okay, there we go. And just finish it off with pliers. Sure that's all the way around there. That way it got caught on the other wire. Get up, get out of there. We're supposed to be going around the stem. All right, I'm coming. All right, it got caught down in this wire, so I need to redirect it where I want it to go, which is around my long stem here. Push this one down, nice and snug. There we go. Feel a little sticky piece up here. When you can't see it, it's good to feel it. And that way you can take care of what you can't see. Okay. Now I'm going to take my two wires. Again, I'm checking to make sure they're side by side and not twisted in any way. I'm going to bend it over to the side right at the top of my twist. You can see that sticking out. Let's push that down a little better. Okay. And I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire to the back of my pliers, and make sure that your pliers are resting right here on the wrap. You don't want them way down here. You want them as close to that wrap as you can get so that when you make your loop, they're right at the top of your bead. Okay, hold on to my bead and my wire, turn my pliers, finish my little loop. Nice. A little bit of a twist. There we go. And let's wrap it. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold on to that, wrap this around. And this is probably the more laborious way to do it. It's probably easier to just take that out and use your other pliers or use your fingers. As a matter of fact, if you don't want to use a lot of pliers, just use your fingers. Just use your fingers and wrap them around. It's not always necessary for you to use tools. Turn that around so I can see what's going on back there. And that's another thing. You can turn this. You don't have to wrap it around. You can just fold it around a little bit, then turn it, and then fold it around a little bit more. Okay, I'm down to the last fraction of an inch. Let's finish it off with my pliers. Okay, push that down. And here we go. And there's my little wrap on one side. I'm going to save the other side for later because that is going to be my hook. So we'll wait on that one. So now I'm going to show you how to wrap the centerpiece, or the in-between piece that's going to put them together. So now for this, I have 5 inches of wire. Again, you need 4 inches altogether. I'm just going to say 4 inches altogether in order to do the embellishment that I want to do on this bead. That might be more than you need depending on the size of bead that you have, but as long as you have at least that 4 inches, that should be good, unless you have a really extra large bead, in which case you might need to adjust accordingly. That frog is back in my throat. Don't know what that's about. Now you can straighten this wire out. I just didn't bother. Excuse me, because I'm going to be wrapping it anyway, so why bother? Okay. So what I'm going to do is put my ends together, make sure my wires are not crossed over each other, but side by side, just like I did with my buttons. And I'm going to, you can put the bead on, but you don't need to right now. I just need an inch of wire. An inch of wire, that's not an inch. There we go. That looks more like an inch. Yeah. I'm going to bend my wire over to the side. Again, they're side by side. Grab my round pliers, slide my wire to the back so that my loop is the same size as the ones on the buttons. Bring my wire over the top, down the side of my pliers, and stop. Hold on to my wire, rotate my pliers, clamp back down, and bring the wire under my pliers. There's a better way for you to see that. There we go. Bring my wire under my pliers until I have a loop. Now, if you look closely, you can see that my little loop is kind of off to the side. So what I'm going to do is go back in, clamp down on my wire, and rotate my pliers until my loop is more in the center. So now I have a centered loop. I'm going to straighten out my little part on the side. And then there's my little loop. So now I need to attach it to my button before I go any further. I don't want to wrap it yet because I need to attach my button. So I'm going to take my closed loop on my button on one side, and I'm going to slide it down the little arm, the little extension from my loop until it rests on the inside of the open loop. Then I'm going to grab my loop with my pliers and wrap that little tail around that stem to close it up. And I want to wrap as close to the pliers as possible. Okay, wrap that around. And then when it's so short that I can't do it with my pliers anymore, I'm going to go grab my other pliers. And continue the wrap. I'm using my fingernail, but if you don't want really messed up fingernails, you don't want to do that. Just use your pliers and then finish it off with my square pliers. Just push those ends down just like we did with the other one. Make sure that's nice and snug. There we go. So that's attached. Grab my tube, slide it on. Now I want to make sure that this wrapped part shows. I'm going to bring this down a little closer. I want this wrap part to be exposed. So I don't want to push this. Let's see if I can get this up a little more. There. Okay, I don't want my bead to go all the way down to the loop. I want this wrap to be exposed, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and put my fingernail right there at the top of that wrap, or the bottom of the wrap. This is the top. Right there at the bottom of the wrap so that my bead doesn't slide over it. So I'm just going to hold that and bend my wire over to the side. And I know it's to the side because this is going side to side and I'm holding it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and bend that wire over to the side, check, make sure my wire's on all crossed up. Okay. In fact, I'm going to give myself just a little bit, a fraction of an inch above the bead. So now I have just a little bit of wire above the bead, about an eighth of an inch, not much, just enough so that when I wrap this side, it's got a little knot, a little wrapped knot on this side as well as this side. So I've got a fraction of an inch away from the top of the bead, and I've got my little wrap showing down here. So now when that drops, you're going to see I've got about a quarter of an inch of space here. Grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire back to the back of my pliers, and bring that tail over the top of my pliers and down the side, making my little loop. There we go. Making my little loop, hold on to my wire and my bead, rotate my pliers back, and bring that under the rest of the way. There we go. And there's my little loop. So before I go any further, I need to attach my bead. Now, both of these, this is very directional. I want both of my, over here, Virginia, I want both of my buttons to be facing up, right? Right. Sorry, I'm looking for the little button. There. I want both of my buttons to be facing up. So in order to achieve that, when I put it on the attaching bead, I need to turn the faces of the buttons towards each other. Just like that. And then I need to slide it on my wire. So this is facing down and it's sliding on my wire this way. And then let it drop down into my open loop. Did it turn the right way? No, it didn't. Let's do that again. Okay. There. Okay. Okay, let's do that again. That's going that way. Turn that down so that it's facing my other button. Slide it on. That's probably the easiest way. Slide it on while it's laying down, then it's not flipping around. Slide that on. Bring it up into the other loop. And then they'll be facing the same direction. That's very important. You don't want one facing this way and one facing the other way. All right, so now that I've got that on, we can wrap it. And if for some reason your little loops are out of whack, just go ahead and put it back here on your little pliers and just work with it until you get them back in shape. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to do one wrap around the bottom of my loop. I'm just holding it with my fingers. I'm holding the bead and the loop with my fingers. Let's wrap that around. I'm going to wrap it around again, give it a nice wrap. And I can wrap it around one more time because all I need is about an inch of wire to go across my bead, which is what we're going to do. And then another half an inch to wrap around the other side. I'm going to give it one more wrap so that it's looks the same as this side over here. I don't want this side to be really wrapped up, and then this side over here to not have as many wraps or be as comparable to that side. So there we go. I think that's good. So now I'm going to bring this wire down around my bead, just like that. I'm just crossing it over the bead. I'm going to bring that really, really close. So I just brought this wire down and across my bead like that. So I just have a little wire across the bead just for decoration. And you can spread it out further if you want to. You can leave it closer. It depends on the look that you're going for. So once I've got that across my bead, I'm just going to wrap it around on the other side to secure it. And that's why I said you want this to be exposed. I'm just going to wrap that around just on top of the other wrap. And then when I can't wrap it anymore with my fingers, I'll just finish it off with my pliers, just like I did on the other side. Just doing those ends and just snug them in between the others. All right, they're in between the other wraps. Here we go. And there it is. There's my little link. Neat, huh? So simple. I love it. Now, full disclosure, I originally had not intended to do a wrap around this bead because they're so pretty that I didn't really want to obscure them in any way. But the wire on the button beads was so pretty and it just popped. And I thought, wouldn't that be neat to just have that going all the way through? Just have that little wrap, that little silvery, almost filigree looking going through. And this is the rest of it. As you can see, I just added that on. It was just not intended to be, but you can see, aren't these beautiful? These are all hand painted, hand splattered. I just love them. Not easy to come by either. These are, but these are not. But oh, I'm so glad I got them. Okay. Anyway, so let's go ahead and finish it off. So this is the rest of it. I'm going to go ahead and attach this button to this tube, just like I did on the other side. Again, I want to make sure they're facing each other. I'm glad I discovered that because before I was holding it up to do it. But now if I lay this down, which one do I want? This one. If I lay this down so that the face is facing the other bead, and then I slide it over the wires as it's laying down, just like that. Slide that into the loop. And then it automatically just flips over. Nice. Okay. So now I'm going to wrap it and embellish it just like I did with the other one. Okay. So let's wrap that around. Let me go make sure that my two loops are together. Wrap that once, twice. Let's see what it looks like on this side. That's got a good wrap over there. Put another one over here. There we go. And let's just wrap that around the side. Stand up a little bit. And just fold that down over the side of my bead and wrap it around. Pretty. Ooh, and that's kind of popped out. I think I'm going to leave it like that. These do not all need to look the exact same. If you have enough to wrap it around there twice, go for it. This looks a little bit more orbital, and I like it. I did not do that on purpose. It just happened, and I'm going to let it happen. So let's wrap that around there. Go. Okay, finish it off with my pliers. Nice. Wrap that the rest of the way around. Actually, I think I'm going to clip that off so they'll both be on the same side. So I'm going to clip that little piece off. Oops, where'd it go? There we go. And push down that little tail. And there it is. Oh, pretty, pretty, pretty. Oh, I can't get it all in the camera. Okay. Let's straighten out here. There we go. Oh, I love it. I think this would be a good one for kids too to do as well. I mean, the rep maybe not, but it's just the pattern of these beads is so pretty. I wish I'd done it earlier in the year before kids went back to school, but I didn't, and that's on me. Oh, isn't that neat? I'm just looking at all the different components. That is kind of awesome. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take this bead over here and make it into a hook. Yay. So let's make this into a nice little hook so it will connect with the rest of the necklace, and it won't actually look like a clasp. I love those. I love it when I do this. All right, so again, I still need 3 inches. Put my 2 wires together. Just poke it into the back of my bead, just like I did before. Same way. Give myself about an inch from the drill point, from the little hole. Fold wire up, fold the back wire, long wire up the back, short wire up the front, cross the wires over the top of the bead, front to back, give it a twist, whoop, just repeating what we did before, and then wrap the short tail around the long tail. And you can wrap this as many times as you want. Make sure you give yourself at least 1 full wrap. I would suggest 1.5. If you want to cut it off after that, that's fine. But you know me, and wasting wire, do not like it. And also when you're wrapping, remember to wrap as close together as you can. Sometimes people get a little carried away and they start wrapping like this, trying to go really fast, starts creeping up the wire, and then it's hard to get it to conform, to squeeze back down. If you do it right the first time, you don't have to worry about that. So just take your time. You don't have to rush. I say this over and over. It's not a race. Give yourself the time that you need to do it nicely. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now this part, oh, this is a lot longer than the other. Let's snip that off. We don't need all that wire. So now for this part, what I'm going to do is a little bit different than the other side. I'm going to separate my wires. Now I can see that this one's in the front, this one's in the back. I'm going to move one over one side, one over to the other side, and now I'm going to twist these wires together. And in order to do that, so that you don't end up with one wire just wrapping around the other, you want to make sure that they're spread apart and do what's called an electrician's twist, which is to basically make sure they're spread and turn them both at the same time. You don't want one twisting or wrapping around the other. You want it to be turning at the same time. Let me get this a little bit closer so you can really, really see what I'm doing. There. And just twisting. And now I just need about an inch of wire, an inch of twisted wire. Just keep twisting until I get to about an inch. That's about right. Yeah. That might be a little more than an inch, but that's okay. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah, that's about a 16th of an inch over, but that's fine. Then I'm going to clip off the end that's not twisted. Don't need that. There we go. Nope, one didn't go. It said I'm hanging on for a dear life. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little twisted wire. You want that to be straightened out. It's going to be twisted, so that's fine, but you want it to go straight up like so. I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm going to go right here to the tip because I need the tiniest little loop possible. So I'm going to go right here to the tip and make a tiny little loop. More of kind of a 3/4 loop. Just like that. So that the bottom is just touching the long wire. Then I'm going to squeeze it together so that it's more of a little oval shape. Then I'm going to wrap it one more time around. Just like that. Now I'm going to check because this needs to be able to fit in this little loop, and it does. So that's what I have. And I'm going to center that. I'm going to just take my pliers and bend it right inside the loop, center of the loop. And you'll only be able to go with the tip because it's so small. And I'm going to bend it back. just like that. And I'm going to check again, make sure it fits a little snug. So I'm going to squeeze it a little bit more with my pliers. There we go. Check. And it fits. A little bit snug, but that's fine because it's supposed to be a hook. You don't want it to be able to slip in and out too easily. There. Now I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to go right down to about a third of the way down my pliers, right on top of where it's wrapped. Just right, there's my little wrap. I'm going to slide this down about a third of the way down my pliers, right on top of that wrap. And I'm going to bend that twisted wire over the pliers and down the back of my bead, like so. Yeah. Every time I move, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, there we go. So that's bent down the back. There's the front, bend it down the back, and there's my little hook right there. And I'm going to push that down so it's a little bit closer to my bead. And there we go. It's just a little half circle up here. And then what I'm going to do is hook it right into my last loop. And there it is. Just hooks right in there. So now we've got a continuing piece. It doesn't look like it has a clasp, but it does. Where's the clasp? It's right there. Can't really tell. Yay! So there, everybody, is our necklace. I'm going to put it on a form. Got to shake it down so that it hangs right. I'm going to go ahead and put it on a form. And make sure these lay right. There we go. Nope. Let me make sure that's not flipped. There. There we go. All right, let me put this on a form so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, there it is. There is our necklace. Yay. Isn't that neat? It's just so different. It's very, very lightweight. It doesn't weigh hardly anything because these beads are made of wood. The button beads are made of wood. I know what the tube beads are some kind of ceramic. But, oh, that's so neat. I love it. And I wanted to reiterate the fact that you can't really tell where the clasp is. It is right down here. And what's really neat about that is that I can unclasp this. Let's see if I can show you. I can unclasp and hook it up someplace else. Let's go right here. And wear this a little differently. So there we are. Now you see that you get to see all the boxes that I have behind me with all the beads in them. So there it is. Isn't that neat though? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That is so neat. I really wish I had done this at a time when kids were out of school, but I didn't. This would have been such a neat project. But those of you who get kids, you can do this on the weekend with your kids or your grandkids or your nieces or your nephews. Ah, I love it. Anyway, that is our piece for the day. If I have enough of these left over, we will have to do a bracelet, probably in a class, because I don't think I'm going to have that many left. And I'm not buying any more of these buttons. I have a bunch of the of these beads, the Turkish beads, these. So they will be making an appearance again. But until then, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know one way or the other. Get in contact with me at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. You can't see me. And let me know one way or the other what you think, what you thought, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. I really, really love to hear your thoughts. Jewelrygen20@gmail.com, JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. Or you can drop a comment on the YouTube page, which is YouTube/DeKalb Library. They're the ones who sponsor these and bring all of these tutorials to you. So that's DeKalb Library, DeKalb Or you can drop a comment and a picture of what you make on the DeKalb County Library Facebook page, which is facebook.com/DeKalb Library. Please do. I love to see them and I love to hear from you. So until next time, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.